ain't sleeping till Hollywood, Hollywood. We ain't sleeping. Hello, my name is Caleb McDonald.
And it's your girl, Gaelyn Smith.
And you're listening to No Sleep Till Hollywood. We're not sleeping until we make it in Hollywood. And while we're up, we will be discussing the state of the industry and our place in it.
And as you guys know from the first episode of our season, and if you listen to last week, you know too, there is currently a WGA strike happening. So the Writers Guild of America is on strike for a number of different reasons, a lot of them having to do around compensation and being fairly compensated, especially with residuals looking different because of streaming and them not being paid as well. So there are a couple of things that are happening. We are today is Monday, so we are on the first day of the second week of the WGA strike. A number of things have happened over the weekend, okay? The MTV Movie Awards, whatever they're called, they basically didn't happen because Kelly Clarkson, she pulled out when the Writers Guild strike happened because she was like, nah, I'm not going to be out here scabbing. And then they basically had to scrap the entire show, change the format. I don't know how it looked, but I'm sure it was not cute. And then the Duffer Brothers, they're the Duffer Brothers, right? Duffer? Yeah. Okay. The Duffer Brothers, they did Stranger Things. Y'all know I don't watch scary stuff, but they do Stranger Things. They have halted production on season 5 until the WGA strike is over because writing still happens during production and they weren't going to be out here stabbing. So that's what's going on right now. There are a number of wild things. People were saying that Quinta Brunson needed to fix this, not understanding that she too is in the WGA. Then there were actors from a popular show who were apparently out here laughing at the protesters. It's a lot going on. Check out your local Twitter app to see all of the drama and tea, but just want to give you guys a quick little WGA strike update.
And thank you for the updates. Listeners, you are now informed.
Mm-hmm.
And if you catch anyone scabbing, if you know what that means, report it.
Report it to your local authorities. I don't know who your local authorities are, but them.
Only time it's okay to be a snitch. But today we are going to be discussing a very popular show, objectively speaking.
Popular to somebody.
Some people absolutely hate it, clearly. Others absolutely love it, definitely. And there's definitely some controversy around its originality. We will be talking about Friends, ladies and gentlemen.
Gentrified ass living single. Tuh.
You heard it here, 152nd.
Oh, y'all know I'm coming in spicy. I do not. If you know me in real life, you know I don't like this show. I don't like nothing about it. Do I like some of the actors in it? Sure. I think Jennifer Aniston is a lovely lady. But listen, when it comes to this show, Go ahead, Caleb. Go ahead, talk about what you want to talk about, your little white show.
So just some background on the show. It was created by David Crane and Marta Kauffman, and it premiered on NBC in 1994.
The show is about 6 white friends who go through life together in Manhattan. That's really all I got for you. That's really all they do. Apparently, there is a will they, won't they plot line. I think it goes between Rachel and Ross? Isn't that like the big will they, won't they of it all? But it's like 6 friends, 4 women, 2 guys. No, is it half and half? I don't know.
Yeah, it's half and half.
Half and half. 3 guys, 3 girls going through life. There's a will they, won't they. The show was on the air forever. For literal ever. It was on the air from 1994 to 2004. Which is a very long time for any show. But for a show about 6 white people in New York City, it's a very long
time. The show, it's your basic sitcom. I mean, there's romance in there. Mm-hmm. There's all kinds of comical situations. There's breakups. The show does manage to keep a through line with the will they, won't they. Mm-hmm. It went on for 10 seasons, and during that time it got a total of 62 Emmy nominations. They did win 6 of those Emmys.
It's a
And
low
by the end of
percentage
the
for how much
show,
y'all be talking about that show. Y'all swear that show is the best thing since sliced bread. And I'm just looking at this percentage of Emmys. Very low.
and by the end of the show, each cast member was making $1 million an episode,
Mm.
and then now make 20 million a year in residuals.
I will say, when you read like about Friends and how it changed the television landscape, there are some valid points to some things that it did that changed the landscape. Particularly, what I was interested in was hearing how the cast negotiated their contracts together.
Right.
Because in the first season, they were all making $22,000 an episode. In the second season, because of the Rachel Ross foolishness, Jennifer Aniston and the man who plays Ross, they were making
David Schwimmer.
45,000. Yeah, David Schwimmer. I don't like his last name. Why does your last it just anyway? They were making $45,000 an episode, and then basically David Schwimmer was like, "I don't like feeling like I make more money than my castmates when we all do the same amount of work." So they all came in and renegotiated for season 3, and then from there they were able to continually negotiate each year up to $1 million. Now in residuals, they negotiated for 2% ownership of the show, which is why they get money in residuals. But that 2% makes each of them $20 million a year. That's crazy. That's really crazy
Mind,
for a show
mind
that's
you,
literally a ripoff of another show. Go ahead, Caleb.
and also, I just want to make this clear for our audience members. All right. Yes, they make $20 million a year in residuals, but that is not the norm.
Not at
And
all.
writers would get so much less.
First of all, no other actors are making $20 million a year in residuals on any TV show. I don't care what y'all tell me. Cosby Show wasn't making that kind of money. Full House cast ain't making that kind of money. Ain't nobody making $20 million a year. It's no wonder we don't see some of these actors in nothing else. They're like, I made my money. I can sit at home, raise my children, and
And
make
also,
money.
and also, for them to be making $1 million an episode, and this show was around when seasons were 20 episodes,
Mm.
they was making 20 million a year,
20,
20
22
plus.
million is a year, a season. It's kind of crazy. I mean, but if we think about it like this, Warner Media spent $500 million to acquire Friends for the streaming service HBO Max. $500 million.
That's half a bill.
That's crazy. That's crazy for y'all to literally watch a show about something you do on college campuses every day. Sit around and chat in your
For
secret white circles.
and to rewatch at that, because $500 million. You know how many shows that could have created?
I
How
mean,
how many things that could have funded?
so many originals could have been. I mean, we could have originals. We could have had a reboot of Living Single. We could have had so many things. What's been canceled on HBO Max recently that we could have kept that was good? Lovecraft Country, um, Gordita Chronicles, I think was on HBO Max. Like we had so
Yeah.
many things we could have kept for $500 million, but they decided to spend all this money on Caleb's white friends
Why are they my white friends?
because you've seen the whole show, so they're your friends. You
Let's
have to
see.
take responsibility for these white people.
I don't have to take what?
And because of that, let's talk about the fact that across 10 seasons, 100 plus episodes, there were only 27 black people on the show, which I didn't know. Honestly, I thought there was only 2. But 27?
And not all of them had
27?
names or lines to speak.
And when they did have lines and names to speak, they experienced racism because Gabrielle Union talked about her time on the show and it was not pleasant. So, 27 black people? Like, think about it. Like, every television show, like each sitcom probably has at least 50 characters in every episode. 22 episodes a season, 10 episodes. That's 220 something episodes. 27 black people. It's New York City. I'm pretty sure if we looked at the demographics of New York City in the 1990s, it was way more than 27 black people in Manhattan. I'm just so sorry to tell y'all. Like,
It's upsetting on its own, but when you do remember that it is a New York City placed show, it's like how's that possible?
so Caleb,
How'd y'all manage?
since you've seen this show, these are your
Yes.
friends. Defend this show. Defend it.
Show, okay, I will say, having seen Friends, I started watching it because I did have a friend. Yes, they were. and they
Of
were
course.
obsessed with it. They were obsessed with the show.
Mm.
And it's not that I cared to see what their obsession was about.
Mm-hmm.
It's just they would try to turn on episodes out of order.
Uh-huh.
And at this point, I was still in my very unhealthy, I don't like spoilers. So I did
It's a
watch the show.
sitcom though. Like there's such a thing as a spoiler
No,
on a
for
sitcom.
me, look, for me, those are still spoilers.
It's a sitcom, bro. It's gonna be the same stuff every
Nah,
episode.
listen. I consider there to be spoilers for new music. All right, I don't want when I open Twitter, I don't want to hear about none of the songs that dropped yet. I want to experience them myself. So
You're
I'm
not
still
gonna
managing.
survive this summer when Beyonce go on this tour. You're not finna survive nothing.
I'm still managing my spoilers relationship. But back to the point. So I did
Mm-hmm.
watch all of Friends to
Mm-hmm.
avoid spoilers because I knew there was a will they won't they, and I wasn't trying to have things out of order. Plus, I like to get all the references, because on season 8, episode 9, they could be referencing season 2, season 5, season 6, and I don't want to be just an average viewer.
So basically, you're saying the only thing that you like about the show was that you were able to watch it without it being spoiled. Because you ain't defended the show. You just told us how you got to
Well,
watch it, but you ain't given us enough. You ain't told
exactly.
us
I was
why it
getting
was
there.
good. Oh, okay.
I
I'm
was getting
waiting.
there.
Because, child, I ain't heard nothing that made me go, let me go watch this.
Okay, so I will say the casting was done correctly. Like
Okay.
nobody else could have played these characters as well with the chemistry that they all have. And my favorite thing about the show was the writing.
I
Like
do know a couple of these white people. We got
the
Jennifer
writing,
Aniston, Lisa
yeah.
Kudrow, Courtney Cox. That's all I know. That's all I got.
Yeah, no, the Joey and Chandler,
Mhm.
they really stayed within the show. Though they did have a spin-off for Joey
They
called
did.
Joey. And I think Joey is in a show called Episodes that's about his life, but yeah, I don't know.
Joey
It's
did 2 seasons from 2004 to 2006 when he moves to LA to pursue his acting career.
because that was a big thing. Joey and his acting career.
Did he ever do
And
acting? Because I felt like everything I read about the show said that they spent most of their time either in the apartment or in the cafe, not working.
no, so I think like as a typical beginning seasons of the show, like that's what it
Mm-hmm.
was at first. But Joey, he was an actor. He was trying
Mm-hmm.
to make it big. I think he had gotten cast on like some soap operas,
Oh,
and that
okay.
was like his big break during the show.
Okay.
Um, Ross was a paleontologist, dinosaurs.
Thank you.
Hmm.
I promise y'all I'm
Um,
smart, but you know what I'm saying? Listen, I don't know about the ologies and the.
Rachel, I I think Rachel was just rich, and then there was a point where she was struggling for money.
That's like such a typical storyline. Like that's like Whitley Gilbert, that's London Tipton. I feel like that's such a thing. Like spoiled rich
Yeah.
girl, and then season 3 she loses her money for whatever reason and has to get a job.
No, yeah,
And I
exactly.
feel like we literally could like go across a number of shows and it'll be season 3 each time. I really think I'm right.
Um, but the writing is truly what made the show, and it's not just the writing of like the stories, because again, it's a sitcom.
Right.
It wasn't getting too complex at any point, but the jokes were top tier. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not saying they were the best ever written, but
But
they
like
were.
you laugh when you watch the show.
Yes, absolutely. There's one scene where two guys get locked in a room,
Uh-huh.
and Joey, the idiot
Uh-huh.
of the group, says, "Oh no, it's just us two. We need to repopulate the earth. We need a condom." And the stupidity of that line is just genius. Because,
Caleb, I have a question.
yeah,
At any point in your life, did you find yourself saying the phrase too black for the white kids and too white for the black?
Oh, was I a little Donald Glover? So I don't know actually. I feel like
Because
it
I
was
just
in my
feel like
mind.
the fact that you thought that joke was funny makes
No,
me
but like
believe you said that phrase in your life.
I butchered it. But like the show did what it had to do.
I'm gonna tell y'all now, I've tried to watch Friends a few times. And by tried, I mean I was watching something else, it went off, and then Friends got started, and I didn't know what else to do, so I sat there for 10 minutes. I have maybe seen across the multitude of times I've watched this show, I've seen probably one total episode in terms of minutes of watching.
Mm.
And I've never laughed. In fact, I've usually been so irritated that I've had to change the channel because I'm like, this is bad. Like, it's not funny to me.
Well, I will say, and this next thing I'm gonna say could branch into the original, but Friends definitely took time for me to invest in. Like
Okay.
it took time for the jokes to be funny.
Mm.
When looking at its counterpart, its parent,
It's
Living
Parent,
Single,
the
Living
original, the
Living Single
blueprint.
was hilarious from the opening line.
Yeah, no, Living Single is one of the best shows of the 90s, definitely. I mean, Living Single also, it's also about a group of friends living in New York that all live together. It follows the lives of several single male and female roommates and friends in 1990s Brooklyn, New York, whereas Friends is in Manhattan, New York. It was created by Yvette Lee Bowser and it premiered in 1993 on the Fox network, which was a year before Friends, which is wild because the president of NBC, when asked if he could have one show that was out right now, said it would be Living Single, and they're created Friends, the white reboot of Living Single.
So there is no question
That's so
that the show was
embarrassing.
robbed.
Like, that's really embarrassing for you. Like, you just created a like, you did segregation. You did segregation on purpose.
On purpose.
And
Could
then
have been
didn't even do
subtle.
it correctly. Like, so, the cast of Living Single, for people who don't know, you have Queen Latifah playing Khadijah James, a magazine owner. I just want to talk about the jobs that were also had on this show because these other
Right.
people, I don't know what they was doing over there. You got Kyle Barker, a banker. You have Regine Hunter, a wedding planner. Erica Alexander played Maxine Felice, a lawyer. You got Overton Wake, played by John Henson. He's a handyman. Then you got Sinclair James, played by Kim Coles, who also worked at the magazine. All these people were employed well and still had roommates, which tells you how expensive New York is, but they were employed well, doing productive things in society. And then you had the friends sitting there on the couch.
Sitting on the couch, be it their house or a coffee shop.
Like, just
Just
sitting. What else was y'all doing? And then, like, my whole thing with Friends is you took the concept, made it all white, but then didn't even do it well. Like, Khadijah stayed with a fine man on her arm in the show. If you was a fine black man in the 90s and you wasn't on Living Single, you wasn't fine. Like, those were the rules. Everybody was on that show. Friends, who had the fine men on Friends?
that's actually that's a great point. Like every once in a while somebody would come in. The finest they got was Brad Pitt, and
I guess,
that's
child.
Brad Pitt.
I mean, he fine, I guess, for like a white man.
I mean younger
But
he
also,
was
like,
quite
everything we
comfortable.
know about him now, I can't unsee it.
Oh, yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, I just can't unsee it. I'm so sorry for that man. But Living Single is my jam. I first watched Living Single as a junior in college. The rest of the circumstances of how I began to watch it, I will not disclose. But I started watching it. I started watching it to become friends with somebody. We'll make that loose like that. And so I started watching the show, and it became like a stress reliever. But I watched the entire 5 seasons in like 4 weeks, I think, because y'all know I love to watch TV and watch it quickly. So I watched the entire season. I used to laugh my ass off because I just thought it was so funny. Like, I didn't necessarily, what I liked about it particularly was it was a group of Black friends, but there wasn't necessarily a lot of emphasis put on this being a Black show. They just were Black people having experiences. And so, yes, there were episodes that dealt with, Kwanzaa, or episodes where there were like uniquely Black references, but it wasn't different from like a Blackish that tells us every 4 seconds this is a Black show. But like we were saying earlier, all of them had jobs, and they had like middle class jobs for the most part. Whereas, you had the Banks family of Will Smith who were like upper class, well, like upper middle class. And then you had, shows like Sanford and Son and things like that where people were working class. But the idea that you saw middle class, young Black people in their 20s and 30s working, having relationships, having friendships in like a positive light, obviously is something that just really hadn't been seen yet. And of course lays the groundwork for you to have a show like Friends, the difference being the gender balance of Friends. Friends was half guys, half girls, whereas Living Single was mostly a female friend group with 2 guys stuck on the end. Yeah, because you get Kyle and Max, and then you get Overton and Sinclair. So really, it was really about 4 women friends.
Right.
And some dudes that hung around.
And some of their men's.
But it's just like, I don't know. I can't, for me personally, I will never invest amounts of time into Friends because I feel like I've seen the show already. And people who have watched both say that you can point to specific episodes in Friends that are direct ripoffs of Living Single. And I've already seen Living Single. If I want to watch Living Single, I'm going to watch Living Single again. Duh.
No, I will say the funnier show without a doubt is Living Single.
Mm-hmm.
One of the only things that Friends has over Living Single is the quantity.
Right.
Since it went on for 10 seasons.
I mean, that's part of that was because, Fox at the time that Living Single was coming up was a developing network. They didn't have the same marketing push. And it's interesting. We could talk about this on a different episode, but like a lot of networks back then would have a whole lot of real Black shows. And then when they tried to cross over into the mainstream, would get rid of all those Black shows. Because I'm pretty sure Living Single was canceled. Like, I don't think it was that, it ended as much as it was canceled. Whereas I think Friends got to end itself after 10 seasons, which of course you're going to get a larger audience. You're going to have, more advertising dollars. Like you said, it was nominated for Emmys, whereas I don't believe that Living Single ever was. Like, the push in the machine around Friends was so much larger that I understand why it is more a part of the larger American culture. I just wish that the same respect and the same audience was given to Living Single when quite literally you don't get Friends without Living Single.
Speaking of the same respect, there was a little spat between David Schwimmer and the cast of Living Single because
he was ugly for that. Because why would he do that? Go ahead and tell the people what he did. But that was just ugly. Go ahead.
David Schwimmer was talking about the success of Friends and the legacy of it specifically. And in talking about the legacy of Friends, he said, "Oh yeah, no, I would love to see a reboot of Friends, and we could do it with a diverse cast."
No, he said an all Black cast or an all Asian cast.
Yeah.
My girl Erica Alexander hit him with a nice and said, "Hey friend, so sorry to tell you, but you're actually a reboot of my show." The Black version was Living Single, and you came a year after. But like his whole cleanup was like ridiculous. He was like, "Oh, I'm sorry, my words were taken out of context. Obviously, I was a fan of Living Single, and if it was a direct reference for Friends, then obviously I owe my career and we owe a lot to Living Single." Boy, Living Single made your life possible. Don't even play with my girl.
He really leaned into we don't know for sure.
We don't know.
But
and like I mean, I get it. It's like Living Single, it's the bigger show. It had more seasons. I went to the Warner Brothers studio lot last year when I went to LA, and like there is a whole section of the Warner Brothers tour dedicated to Friends. Like there is a Central Perk cafe that you can actually go order from. They have like the little set and all the things. Like, of course, I didn't take no picture on that couch because I don't care about the couch. But like you could do all of that. So like I get it. It's a big part of the cultural zeitgeist, and it did change a lot in terms of how television shows were written. It changed, a lot about how ensemble casts were able to negotiate contracts. Like it did do some good work in terms of the business of television, I just think that it did a lot of erasure in terms of representation on television.
I know one thing that it did do for representation was
Oh yeah,
they did normalize gay characters on the show.
I was say because I was gonna say they had that. I know they had the lesbian wedding. I know they weren't the first show to feature like a gay wedding, but they did have a gay wedding. But also like in terms of, I think, and you'd have to correct me because you've seen more of the show. Like sex seemed to have been a larger part of that show, and I think like they talked a lot about how it normalized like casual sex and talking about protection and things like that. Because in Living Single, it was like the girls went on dates and every now and again you knew a character had sex, but like that wasn't every time we saw a date we didn't see sex, so it wasn't necessarily like a big part of the story the same way.
And sex was always like alluded to in that
right
PG something happened.
Right, and of course, I mean, it was 1993 to 98 versus 94 to 2004. By the time you get to the 2000s, what you can say and do on TV is very different.
Right, that's when you have the classic the bed blanket up to the breast.
The blankets kill me because the blanket be up to the chin, right. And they just be laying there looking at each other. Hi, hi. Like, what is this? What is this?
Yeah.
I don't know. It did a lot in the business, but it also, and I guess that's true, where it did impact representation in a positive way, it did. But also at the same time, and when we were reading the articles to prep for this, like they talked a lot about like, yes, there was a gay wedding, but there was also a lot of homophobia and a lot of homophobic jokes. So it's like an interesting thing of like gay characters were present, but they weren't really treated with dignity and respect. So like,
right.
I don't know.
Because yeah, if I'm not mistaken, it was Ross. It was his ex-wife that was gay.
Oh. And wasn't somebody's dad was a drag queen. I remember reading that in the articles. Somebody's dad was a drag queen, and they said the way it was written in the article was that the dad was a drag queen and possibly transgender, but was played by a cisgendered woman in the show.
Right.
And I'm like, that's a little wild. I mean, we didn't, quote unquote, we didn't know as much back then, but like, that is a little wild.
Just a bit.
Just a tad.
Yeah. No, that show definitely took liberties in every direction possible. I mean, they went on for 10 seasons and the show was about nothing, essentially. So
about nothing. I mean, listen, and here's the thing. I don't hate, because somebody's going to be like, Gaelyn hates white television. And that is simply not true. Okay? Because one thing about it, two things for certain. I'm a Full House stan. Okay? Everywhere you look, everywhere you are, there's a heart. Okay? Don't play with me when it comes to Michelle and Danny Tanner and Jesse and them my peoples. I love Full House. Why do I love Full House? Because it was funny. You know why else I love Full House? Because it made you cry sometimes. It taught you lessons. Okay? It was about sisterhood. I don't have any siblings, so I enjoyed seeing the little sisterhood. And it was cute and it was fun. So I don't hate white television, for the record. I just don't like corny white television that don't make me laugh. But yeah, y'all, your favorite podcasters, we doing some stuff. You know what I'm saying? We working hard on the low. Hopefully this time next week, I'm gonna speak it into existence. But hopefully this time next week, when we're recording episode 4 of season 2, we gonna have good news for y'all about the American Black Film Festival. I'm just feeling like we gonna have some good news. So,
amen.
We're going to think about that. Hopefully this time next week, we also can tell y'all that the strike is over and that the studios is going to pay people some money.
Fingers crossed.
But this has been another episode of your favorite podcast, No Sleep Till Hollywood. It's your girl, Gaelyn Smith. And once again, you can follow me at GSmitty with 2 T's and 4 Y's on anything with the @ symbol, because I fixed my name. TikTok is hating on me right now with it, so I might have to change it back. But for right now, it's at GSmitty, 2 T's, 4 Y's on anything with an @ symbol.
And my name is Caleb McDonald. You can follow me at Caleb Subtitles to read the subtitles of my thoughts on any platform. And of course,
Mm-hmm.
please follow the podcast on Instagram at nosleepxprod for
Mm-hmm.
all the updates and fun little things that we do on there.
Of course. And until next time, good night, good evening, good morning, bonsoir, bonjour, adios, and bye.